3 seconds before his death, Kim Joo-ho managed to think of one thing. He should have eaten a proper breakfast in the morning. A beam of light pierced straight through him. The second-level angel didn't even glance his way. A strange feeling appeared in his mouth, as if he had swallowed something. Or someone. He opened his eyes. The apartment ceiling? A crack in the corner shaped like the letter Y, the smell of instant ramen. Joo-ho lay on the floor and simply breathed for 3 seconds. Again. System initialization. Regressor detected. Temporal return point. Day -72 before the opening of the heavens. Host status alive. Hidden module detected. Zero protocol activated. He sat up, rubbed his face, looked at his hands. Ordinary, no scars, no burns. 24 years old, everything in place. 72 days. Last time he had 48. He spent 30 of them trying to save people who had betrayed him. The result, a beam of light, an empty stomach, and 0 results. That won't happen again. The phone vibrated. A news app. Headline: Meteor shower over Seoul, the most beautiful spectacle of the decade. Joo-ho closed the app. A beautiful spectacle. People were photographing it from rooftops 20 minutes before the first angel landed in Gwanghwamun Square and vaporized everything within a 300-meter radius. He stood up and walked to the window. Seoul below was living in complete ignorance. Taxis, coffee shops, someone walking a Pomeranian. 72 days. 0 protocol information. This module is an excluded element of the Heaven system. Function: recording anomalies. Appealing decisions. Intervention. Status: officially does not exist. Host acquired by accident at the moment of first death. Recommendation: do not tell anyone about this. By accident, Joo-ho repeated aloud. So no one planned to give me a second chance. 0 protocol, correct. You simply fell well. He was silent for a second. Understood, at least it's honest. The refrigerator was empty. Joo-ho pulled on his jacket, grabbed his keys, and left. On the stairwell, he was caught up by his neighbor. Park Song-jae, 40 years old, insurance salesman, fan of loud TV at night. Oh, Joo-ho, see. Did you see the meteors last night? My wife says we should have taken photos. I said, just go to sleep already. It's a good thing you didn't take photos, Joo-ho answered and kept walking. Park Song-jae called after him. Why's that? Bad omen. He bought coffee from a vending machine at the subway entrance and opened a list in his head. What I know. Day 0. The opening of the heavens. 7 rifts over Korea. From each one emerges 1 guardian angel and 24 executors. Day 3. The first awakened appear. People whose system activated upon contact with angelic energy. Day 14. The selection begins. Angels start the sorting of the population. Day 31. I first encountered an S-rank awakened and realized I had fallen hopelessly behind. Day 48. I died. In his previous life, he had awakened on the 5th day. By accident. Lowest rank, the garbage skill reflection, which simply copied the last enemy strike with a 1-second delay. Useless against angels who move faster than thought. Now he has 72 days in the 0 protocol, which no one knows about. He sipped the coffee. Unpleasant. Quest available. First step. Activate awakening before the opening of the heavens. Standard awakening period, day 3 to 7. Your deadline, now. Hint, you don't need contact with an angel. You need contact with residual energy. It's already here. Coordinates, Jongno Street, Underground Passage, Section B. Reward? Joo-ho looked at his phone. Jongno 3ga subway station was 8 minutes walk away. He threw away the coffee cup. The underground passage in Section B smelled of dampness and cheap ramen from a stall. Nearby, an old man sat with a newspaper. 2 school kids were playing on their phones. Joo-ho walked slowly, scanning the space. Somewhere here there had to be a crack, a micro rift. In the previous life, he had only seen such things after the opening of the heavens. Thin golden lines in the air, like cracks on porcelain. But the 0 protocol says they are already here. He saw it on the wall next to a toothpaste advertisement. Thinner than a hair, pulsing, no one was looking. Joo-ho pressed his palm against it. The world turned white for a second. Awakening, host, Kim Joo-ho. Awakening rank, S primary skill, null reflection. Type, absorption/return. Description, absorbs any incoming damage, accumulates, returns. Accumulation limit, unknown. Return time, instantaneous. Joo-ho slowly pulled his hand away. Reflection had been trash. It copied a strike with a delay. Null reflection absorbed everything and returned it immediately. He looked at his palm. then at the crack in the wall, which had now gone dark. The old man with the newspaper glanced at him. "Young man, are you all right?" "Yes," said Juho. "The wall is just beautiful." The old man returned to his newspaper with the look of a man who is no longer surprised by anything. Juho stepped outside. The sun was shining, music played somewhere. 72 days. He composed a short priority list in his head. First, resources. Money, position, information. Second, in his previous life, an S-rank awakened named Choi Min-jun awakened on the 4th day, and by the 30th controlled a third of the survivors in Seoul. Do not touch. For now. Third, the guardian angel of the Northern Rift. Last time Juho had seen him once from a distance. White, 7 meters tall, 6 wings. He destroyed a city block in 4 seconds. Null reflection absorbs incoming damage. Juho stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. Passersby walked around him. What happens if I absorb the Guardian strike and return it? 0 protocol. Theoretically, you will kill the angel with his own strike. Practically, the accumulation limit is unknown. Probability of your death? High. Probability of success? Also high. Do you want to try? No, said Juho, not yet. 0 protocol. Reasonable. He entered a cafe, sat by the window, and opened his laptop. 72 days. Let's start with the first. This person's name was Lee Sanho. 27 years old. Worked at a logistics company on the 3rd floor of the building across the road. Every day at 12:15 he went out for lunch to the same place. Corn soup and rice, always the same thing. In his previous life, Juho had met him on the 23rd day after the opening of the heavens. Sanho had already awakened by then. Rank B, physical enhancement skill, nothing special. But he knew the location of the northern bunker and didn't want to say. Juho was not proud of what happened next. Now Sanho was sitting 3 tables away from him in the cafe, eating a sandwich. Alive. Whole. Having no idea. Juho looked at the laptop. The list was simple. Money. He had 80,000 won in his account and 2 months of overdue rent. In his previous life, that hadn't bothered him. After the opening of the heavens, money stopped mattering around the 8th day. But right now, the 8th day is still 72 days away. Position. His apartment was in a decent neighborhood, but on the 6th floor with no emergency exit. On the day of the sorting, angels started from the top. Information. This is the main thing. He knew the ending, but not the details. Who awakened first in his district? Where exactly the rifts would appear? How many people survived in the northern bunker that he never found in time? Sanho finished his coffee and reached for his phone. Juho closed his laptop. Not now. Too soon. Then he stood up and walked to the counter to order water. And at that moment, Sanho dropped his phone right at Juho's feet. Both looked down, then at each other. Thank you, said Sanho when Juho picked up the phone. The screen was intact. Lucky. Happens. Sanho put the phone in his pocket. Was about to leave. Then for some reason stopped. Do you come here often? I haven't seen you before. First time, said Juho. Nice place. Quiet. Sanho paused briefly. Are you feeling all right? You look... not great. Juho looked at him. He had always been like this, even back then. He would ask first whether you were feeling all right. Then Juho broke 2 of his ribs and got the bunker address. Sanho hadn't died, that's what he told himself afterward. Just broken ribs. He'd survive. Whether he did survive, he didn't know. 5 days after that, Juho himself was dead. I'm fine, he said. Didn't sleep enough. Sanho nodded with the look of a man who believes such answers. Got it. Well, have a good day. He left. Juho watched his back through the glass. 0 protocol. Emotional fluctuation in the host recorded. Clarification, this is not weakness. This is information. I know, said Juho quietly. He sat back down, opened the laptop. Northern bunker. Find it before the opening of the heavens, without broken ribs. The next 3 days, Juho worked. The 0 protocol turned out to be more useful than he had expected. Not because it gave ready answers, and it didn't, but it tracked residual angelic energy in the city, which no one else could see. Faint traces of future rifts. Juho walked around the city with the look of a tourist and drew a map. 7 points. Gwanghwamun Square, Hangang, the northern slope of Namsan. 4 more. The northern rift, Noryeongjin district near the bridge. 0 protocol. The host has compiled an accurate map of the rifts. In the right hands, this will take 3 days, or 7 years in the hands of the government. Question: What do you intend to do with this map? Juho put away his phone. Nothing for now, it's leverage. You don't use leverage right away. On the 4th day, he accidentally ran into Sanho again in the same underground passage on Jongno. Sanho was carrying a bag of groceries and looking down at the ground. Then he raised his eyes and stopped. "Oh, you again." "Me again." Sanho looked at him for a second, then said, "Look, this is strange, but do you want to eat? There's decent corn chowder nearby, cheap." Juho was about to decline. "All right," he said instead. Sanho looked mildly surprised, as if he hadn't expected agreement. The corn chowder was hot. Sanho ate quickly and spoke slowly. About work, about the boss moving the deadline again, about his sister in Busan. Juho listened and barely replied. "You're quiet in general," said Sanho without offense. "That's fine, I can talk for 2. "I see." Sanho laughed. Juho looked at him and thought, this person will awaken in 68 days. Rank B. Skill, physical enhancement. He'll find the bunker on the 20th day because his sister is there. He won't tell anyone because he's afraid the bunker will get overcrowded. The logic is understandable. Wrong, but understandable. "Do you have family in Seoul?" asked Juho. "No, just me. My sister is in Busan," I said. Sanho stirred the chowder. "And you?" "Same, just me." "I see." A pause. "Then we're equally alone. We're strangers eating chowder." "That's something too," said Sanho. Juho didn't answer. He looked at his bowl. In 68 days, this person will hide the bunker exit behind a metal door with no markings. In his previous life, Juho had found it on the 23rd day, when options were already running out. He was wounded, angry, and cornered. Now he has 68 days. "Do you work in logistics?" Juho asked. Sanho raised an eyebrow. "How do you know?" "The jacket, company logo on the sleeve." "Oh, right." Sanho nodded. 3 years already. Boring, but stable. You?" "Flexible schedule," said Juho. "For now." For now, those are the exact words. In 68 days, the concept of work will lose all meaning. They finished eating in silence. Sanho paid before Juho had the chance to reach for his wallet. "No need," said Juho. "I invited you." Sanho shrugged. "It's the rules." Juho looked at him. "Zero protocol. Host silent longer than usual. Internal contradiction detected. Clarification, this is normal." "Shut up," Juho thought in the direction of the system. "Zero protocol acknowledged." "Thank you for the food," said Juho aloud. "Don't mention it." Sanho stood up and put on his jacket. "If we run into each other again, consider it fate." "I don't believe in fate." "Me neither." Sanho smirked. "But I believe in coincidences." He left. Juho stayed sitting for another 2 minutes. He looked at the empty bowl. 68 days. Then he stood up and walked outside. Seoul was humming all around. He took out a notebook and wrote one word. Noryangjin. Underlined it. Day -15 before the opening of the heavens. Juho woke up at 4 in the morning because the system was silent. That was strange. The zero protocol ran constantly in the background. A quiet hum of notifications, the pulse of residual energy, sometimes brief lines without prompting. Over the past 12 days, he had grown as accustomed to it as to the sound of a refrigerator. Constant. Unnoticed. Now, silence. He sat up on the bed. Through the window, Seoul, streetlights, occasional cars, zero protocol. Host woke up on their own. Reason. Anomalous signal within a 400-meter radius. Signal type. Unknown. System temporarily went silent to minimize detection. Recommendation, do not go outside. "What do you mean by minimize detection?" said Juho quietly. "Zero protocol." The zero protocol is an excluded module. Officially does not exist. The Heaven system periodically performs anomaly scans. Tonight, a routine sweep. The signal passed. The danger has likely passed. Probably. Probably is not an answer. Zero protocol. Agreed, it's the best I have. Juho stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the street. Nothing. Streetlights, an empty sidewalk, a cat on a trash can. Then the cat raised its head and looked straight at him. Orange, mangy, one eye shut. An ordinary stray cat. It stared unblinking for about 10 seconds. Then it jumped off the can and disappeared around the corner. Juho stood at the window for another minute. Paranoia, he told himself. He lay back down. Didn't fall asleep until 6. In the morning, he went to Noryang-jin. Officially, I'm just to take a walk. The fish market district, the bridge, residential blocks along the river. Nothing special. But Juho knew that somewhere here in 57 days a rift would open. He could already see the marker and a thin golden thread in the air above the river, nearly invisible in daylight. Zero protocol. Residual energy in this district? High. Concentration higher than at other points. Possible reason? The rift here will be the largest. The guardian angel of the northern sector will emerge from right here. I know, said Juho. I saw him. Zero protocol. You saw him from a distance, from 300 meters. At close range, everything will be different. That's exactly why I'm here. He walked along the river. There were few people, a weekday, early morning, fishermen by the water, an elderly woman with a dog, a student with headphones on a bench. Juho stopped at the parapet. He looked at the water. Here, right here, the rift will break through to the surface. First, there will be a golden glow beneath the water. People will decide it's beautiful. They'll start filming on their phones. Then the water will part. Then he will emerge. 7 meters tall, white, 6 wings, 2 of them covering his face. The remaining 4 for the strike. In his previous life, the very first wing beat threw Juho off a rooftop 100 meters from here. He survived only because he fell into the water. Null reflection absorbs incoming damage and returns it instantly. If he catches that wing beat, what will come back? Zero protocol. Current accumulation limit, unknown. Current skill level, 1. Recommendation, test the limit before contact with the guardian. Start small. Small, Juho repeated. Like what? Zero protocol. That student just threw a coin at you. Juho turned around. The student on the bench was looking at him without expression. On the ground at Juho's feet lay a 101 coin. I didn't hear it. Zero protocol. The skill absorbed the impact automatically. The coin weighs 5.42 grams. Throw speed, approximately 12 meters per second. Absorbed. Return not activated, as no command was given. Accumulated energy, 0.003% of the current limit. Current limit, unknown. Juho looked at the student. The student was already looking at his phone. Maybe by accident, maybe not. Juho picked up the coin, held it between his fingers. The skill works passively, absorbs on its own. Good. Bad, as he has no idea what his limit is. An angelic strike was 1,000,000 times stronger than a coin. If the limit is too low, he'll simply burst from the inside at the moment of absorption. He needs to test it, gradually, methodically. He put the coin in his pocket and kept walking. By noon, Juho had found what he was looking for. It was an underground training spot, a basement beneath the gym 3 blocks from the market. In his previous life, he had learned of it by chance, already after the opening of the heavens, when the awakened started gathering in groups. But the place had existed before that. A few people who sensed something strange in the city and trained together, not understanding why. The door was metal with no sign, an intercom with 1 button. Juho pressed it. A long pause, then a voice. Who? A person with a question. Another pause. What question? How hard can you hit? Silence. Then the lock clicked. Inside it was low and stuffy. A punching bag in the corner, mats on the floor. 3 people, 2 were sitting. 1 was standing by the wall with his arms crossed. The standing one was big. Not just tall, broad in the shoulders with arms that looked as if they had been added separately. About 35. Short haircut. The kind of gaze that people who are used to gauging a threat in a second have. Who are you? He asked. Kim Juho. I want to test something. What exactly? How powerful a strike I can absorb without dying. The big man looked at him for several seconds. Are you crazy? No, just methodical. One of the sitting men and a young guy with a broken nose laughed quietly. The big man didn't smile. Do you know what this place is? I can guess, said Juho. You feel that something is changing. Can't explain it. You're training in case that something turns out to be dangerous. One of you has been seeing things for several days now that shouldn't be there. Lines in the air, a glow in certain places around the city. You think you're going crazy. You're not. A long silence. The guy with the broken nose stopped laughing. The big man slowly stepped away from the wall. How do you know that? It doesn't matter. Juho put his backpack on the floor. Something else matters. In 57 days, it will get very bad here. I'm the only one who knows what to do. But I need to test my skill limit before that moment. That's why I need someone who will hit me with increasing force and record the reaction. The big man looked at him, then said, That is the most insane request anyone has ever made of me. I know. All right, said the big man. My name is Oh Dokwan, and I'm warning you, I hit hard. That's exactly why I'm here. The first 20 minutes were boring. Oh Dokwan hit carefully, an open palm to the shoulder, then to the chest, with increasing force. Juho stood still and watched the system. 0 protocol. Strike 1, 40 newtons. Absorbed. Accumulation, 0.009%. Strike 2, 65 newtons. Absorbed. Accumulation, 0.015%. Strike 3, 110 newtons. Absorbed. Accumulation, 0.024%. Do you feel anything at all? Asked Odokwan. No. That's unnatural. Agreed. Harder. Odokwan looked at him with mild irritation. Then he clenched his fist and struck for real. A straight shot to the body, with a shoulder rotation, with body weight behind it. Juho didn't budge. 0 protocol. Strike. 620 N. Fully absorbed. Accumulation, 0.14%. Note, the host received no damage. Accumulated energy awaits the return command. Oh, Dokwan rubbed his fist. How? A skill, said Juho. I'll explain later. Again. The next hour, they worked methodically. Oh, Dokwan brought in the other two, the guy with the broken nose, who turned out to be a former kickboxer, and a lean woman around 40 with hands as hard as wood, who didn't introduce herself and simply nodded. The strikes got heavier. Juho stood, took them, watched the numbers. 0 protocol. Accumulation, 1.7%. Accumulation, 4.3%. Accumulation, 8.1%. At 8%, something changed. Not pain, not pressure. Something inside, and as if something started quietly humming in his chest. Not unpleasant, just noticeable. Stop, said Juho. Everyone stopped. He focused on the humming, then said to the system mentally, return. 0 protocol. Confirm command? All accumulated strikes will be returned at a single point. Recommended to aim at a target. Otherwise, arbitrary discharge. Juho looked at the punching bag in the corner, at the bag. 0 protocol acknowledged. He raised his hand and pointed his finger toward the bag. Nothing visible happened. The bag was simply struck from the inside with a sharp crack, as if an invisible fist had hit it. It was torn from its mount, flew across the entire room, and slammed into the wall with such a crash that plaster fell from the ceiling. Silence. The guy with the broken nose slowly got up from the mat he had instinctively dropped onto. What was that? 8%, said Juho. I need to know what happens at 100. Everyone looked at him. Oh, Dokwan slowly exhaled. You said 57 days, he said finally. Until exactly what? Juho picked up the torn bag mount from the floor, turned it in his hands. Until the sky opens and something comes out of it that will kill people methodically and without explanation. A long silence. The woman who hadn't introduced herself said in a level voice, I've been seeing this in a dream for 3 weeks in a row. Everyone looked at her. Golden light over the river, she continued, and something large inside. That's not a dream, said Juho. That's a leak. The rift energy affects people nearby. Do you all live or work in this district? All three exchanged glances, then nodded. Then you felt it earlier than others. Juho set the mount on the floor. That means you'll either awaken faster, or you'll be at the epicenter of the first wave, or both at the same time. Oh, Dokwan sat down on the mat. He was silent for a second. What do we need to do? Train, said Juho. Stock up, and listen to me when I say to leave. Why should we trust you? Juho looked at the hole in the wall left by the bag. Because you have no better option. Oh, Dokwan looked at him for a long time, then slowly nodded. Juho left the basement at 3 in the afternoon. The sun was low, the air smelled of fish from the market. 0 protocol. Training summary. Maximum damage absorbed today. 8.1% of the limit. Force discharge, equivalent to a strike of approximately 5,100 newtons. Absorption to discharge ratio, 1:1. Note, this is not just reflection. This is accumulation with interest. Juho stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. Wait, repeat the last part. 0 protocol. The ratio is not 1:1. The total incoming damage during training was approximately 2,800 newtons. The discharge was approximately 5,100 newtons. Coefficient, approximately 1.8. With greater accumulation, the coefficient will likely be higher. Juho exhaled slowly. It's not just a shield, it's amplification. The more he takes, the harder he returns. An angelic strike of power X will come back as a strike of power X, multiplied by the coefficient. He doesn't need to be stronger than the angel, he just needs to absorb the angel's strike and not die. Zero protocol. Correct! The problem, you don't know the accumulation limit. If the limit is exceeded before the return command, the host will die from internal rupture. This is not theory, this is fact. That means I need to know my exact limit before meeting the Guardian. Zero protocol. Correct. Estimated time to determine the limit at the current training pace. Approximately 40 days. You have 57. There is time. No, said Juho, there is no time. He pulled out his phone, found an unfamiliar number in his contacts that he had saved 3 days ago. Composed a message. Are you still looking for a group? A reply came in 2 minutes. Depends on what for. Juho wrote, contact training with increasing intensity, several weeks, payment by results. A pause then. Address? By evening he had 4 contacts. A former military man, now a self-defense instructor. A mixed martial arts fighter who had lost the national championship final the previous year. A taekwondo athlete with 6 dans and a broken contract with the national team. And, unexpectedly, a female doctor who did powerlifting and wrote in reply, I'm interested in what exactly you're testing. Zero protocol. Host is assembling a strike group for accelerated testing. The logic is correct. 1 remark. What? Zero protocol. The anomalous signal this night. It was not a routine scan by the heavens system. I was wrong. It was a live source. Someone, human or connected to humans, was searching for active modules in the city. The zero protocol was detected with approximately 30% probability. Juho stopped. 30% is not a little. Zero protocol. No, it is not. Who could it have been? Zero protocol. The previous iteration's database has no recorded cases like this. This is new. Either someone in this cycle awakened faster than usual, or someone already knows that you regressed. Juho put away his phone. He looked at the river. The water was calm, cold. Beneath it, a thin golden thread of the rift that no one except him could see. Either someone awakened faster or someone knows. In his previous life, regressors didn't exist. He was the first, or thought he was the first. The heaven system didn't allow for rollbacks. That was exactly why the zero protocol had been excluded. It could do this, and that was precisely why it was struck off. What if he isn't the only one who came back? Zero protocol. That is possible. The zero protocol is not the only excluded module. There were 7. I only know about myself. Juho looked at the water for a long time. The other 6, he said. Do they have the same functions? Zero protocol. Number. My function is appeal and intervention. The functions of the others are unknown to me. We were excluded separately, without the right to exchange information. So somewhere in the city there could be another person with an excluded module. Zero protocol or several. And they were searching for you last night. Juho exhaled slowly. 57 days. The angel. That was clear. The angel is large, white, 7 meters tall, strikes with wings. There is a plan for that. A person with an unknown module who knows about the regression, and that's different. He took out the notebook. Under the word Noryang-jin, he wrote a second. Who else? Underlined it twice. Understood. Less reflection. More action. Every few paragraphs, something happens. Dialogues short and sharp. Fights detailed, cinematic. The system in battle, not in silence. Day -54 before the opening of the heavens. 3:17 at night. Juho woke up because the system screamed. Zero protocol anomaly. Rift Point 4, Mapo District Embankment. Micro energy discharge, unplanned. Intensity, 0.3% of full opening. Duration, 11 seconds. Consequence, forced awakening within a 50-meter radius. Number of those affected, unknown. Juho was already putting on his jacket. How much time do I have? Zero protocol. The discharge has already passed. The awakened is currently in a state of primary shock. On average, this lasts from 20 minutes to an hour. After that, the skill stabilizes and the person begins to control it. Sometimes. Sometimes? Zero protocol. Sometimes the skill controls the person. Juho left the apartment, jumped into his sneakers right on the stairwell and ran. The Mapo district at 3 in the morning was empty. The Hangang embankment, 40 meters to the water. Streetlights reflected in the river. Cold. Breath in vapor. Juho ran along the parapet and looked around. Nobody. Then he saw him. A man was sitting on the ground near the water, his back pressed against the parapet. About 25 athletic clothes, looked like he had come out for a late-night run. Knees pulled to his chest, hands pressed against his head. Juho ran over and crouched beside him. "Hey!" The man raised his head. The eyes were wrong, pupils dilated to the edge of the iris, whites with thin red streaks. That's what awakening looks like in the first minutes. The system pushes in on the nervous system from within. The body doesn't understand what's happening. "What's happening to me?" the man said. Didn't ask. Stated. Voice level, which is itself a bad sign. Shock comes in different kinds. "Awakening," said Juho. "You're all right. It will pass." "What will pass?" "The pain, the pressure. In a few minutes it will get better." The man looked at his hands. His palms were glowing. A thin blue light, not bright, barely noticeable. Like a phone screen through fabric. "What is this?" he said. "A skill," said Juho. "Yours, it activated. 0 protocol. Scanning target. Name, unknown. Awakening rank, A skill. Presumably pressure or kinetic manipulation. Clarification requires stabilization. Rank A. Not bad for a random discharge." The man slowly stood up. He looked at his glowing palms. "Get rid of this," he said. "I can't. It's yours, not mine." "I said get rid of this." The voice changed, quieter and heavier. And at that same moment, Juho felt pressure. Not physical. Something pressed from all sides at once, as if the air around had become denser. 0 protocol. Skill activated. Type confirmed. Kinetic field. Source of pressure, the awakened himself. Radius approximately 6 meters, increasing. Host is within the damage zone. Juho didn't move. The man looked at him. The pressure intensified. Juho felt his feet being pushed into the asphalt, felt the air becoming harder to draw into his lungs. 0 protocol. Incoming effect, increasing. Absorption activated. Accumulation, 0.4%, 1.1%, 2.3%. "Stop," said Juho calmly. "You're not leaving," the man said. The pressure kept growing. "No." "Why?" "Because if you don't calm down in the next 30 seconds, you'll kill yourself. A kinetic field without control collapses back on the source. Did you study physics in school?" A pause. The pressure froze for a second. "What?" "Action equals reaction," said Juho. "Everything you put out will come back to you. Right now you're putting out approximately half a ton per square meter. Can you imagine what will happen when that comes back?" Not entirely true, but close to the truth. And most importantly, it worked. The pressure began to drop, slowly, then faster, then it disappeared. The blue light on the palms went out. The man sat back down on the asphalt, exhaled heavily. "What is happening to me?" "Long answer," said Juho. "Short version, in 54 days you'll understand. What's your name?" A pause. "Lee Jun." "Juho." He sat down beside him. "Do you live here?" 3 blocks away." "Good, go home, get some sleep. Contact me tomorrow." He took out his phone, wrote his number on a scrap of paper from his pocket, and held it out. Lee Jun took it, looked at the paper. "You knew this was going to happen," he said. Not a question. "Yes." "You're the same." "A little different, but similar." Lee Jun stood up. His legs were slightly unsteady, normal after a first activation. He tucked the paper into his pocket, looked at Juho. 54 days until what?" "Until you'll need your skill," said Juho. Lee Jun was quiet for a moment. Then he turned and walked into the darkness. Juho watched him go. 0 protocol. Rank A kinetic field. If developed to the point of control and serious combat unit. "Are you going to use him?" "Yes," said Juho, "but first I need to not lose him." 0 protocol. Clarify. An early awakened on their own. A target. As soon as the archive scans this district tomorrow morning, they'll find him. 0 protocol before you. Exactly. Juho stood up and dusted off his knees. "So I have the night." He called Kwan Il-han at 3:30 in the morning. The man picked up after the first ring. Military types either don't sleep or wake up instantly. Listening. "I need a place, closed, no windows, preferably in Mapo. Is there anything?" A 3-second pause. "There's a warehouse, former. My cousin stores spare parts there. Why?" "I'll explain in the morning. Address." Kwan dictated it, then said, "What happened?" "Discharge from one of the rifts. An early awakened. Rank A." A long pause. How stable? Not very. Juho was already walking back toward the subway. That's why the warehouse. I'll be there at 6, said Kwon and disconnected. Juho put away his phone. Good. Warehouse Kwon Lee Jun. That's the first thing. Second, the archive. 2 days for a reply. Tomorrow. Third, training. Accumulation at 19%. Need 100%. 36 days. Fourth, rifts. 6 left unattended. He counted all this in his head as he walked to the subway station. Too many fronts. 0 protocol. Exactly. Recommendation, prioritize, already doing it. In the morning at 6:15, 5 people gathered at the warehouse in Mapo. Kwon Il-han at the door, arms crossed, face unreadable. So Yoonji with her notepad as usual, only this time she was looking at Lee Jun with the professional interest of a doctor who sees an unusual case. Lee Jun himself in the corner, palms facing down, fingers slightly spread. Controlling, learning, and Juho. All right, said Kwon. Explain. Juho explained for 10 minutes. Without excess, rifts, the opening of the heavens, awakening, skills, the essentials. Kwon listened in silence, so Yoonji took notes. Lee Jun stared at the floor. When Juho fell silent, the silence lasted about 15 seconds. Then Kwon said, So in 53 days, angels will come from the sky and start killing people. Yes? And you have a plan. Part of a plan. Part, Kwon repeated without expression. Better than nothing. Lee Jun raised his head. You said I'd need my skill. Voice level like last night. For what exactly? For combat. With angels? Yes. A pause. All right, said Lee Jun. Kwon looked at him. You agree easily. Last night my head nearly exploded from something I didn't understand. Lee Jun shrugged. If this person knows what that was and what to do next, I'm listening. So Yoonji closed her notepad. I need to check his stabilization. She nodded toward Lee Jun. If the skill is unstable, he's dangerous to everyone within range. I know, said Juho. That's why the warehouse. So Yoonji stood up and walked over to Lee Jun. Activate the field weekly, 10% of what it was last night. Lee Jun looked at her. Are you a doctor? Yes. Why is a doctor asking me to activate a kinetic field? Because I'm the only one here who can measure the physiological response, said So Yoonji calmly. Blood pressure, pulse, pupil dilation. The skill is connected to the nervous system. If there's an imbalance, I'll see it. Activate it. Lee Jun looked at Juho. Juho nodded. The field appeared, quiet, barely noticeable. The air thickened slightly, a blue glow on the palms. So Yoonji took out a small flashlight, checked the pupils. Took the pulse with 2 fingers, made a note. Unstable, but tolerable. She stepped back. A week of training. It'll be fine. 2, corrected Juho. A week and a half, said So Eunji. In a tone that is not up for discussion, Kwon cleared his throat. So there are 5 of us now? 6, said Juho. 3 more will come today. Kwon looked at him. You already found them too? No, they'll come on their own. 0 protocol. Clarification, they don't know yet that they're coming. Juho ignored this. At 9 in the morning, he stood before the archive's gray building. He rang the intercom. Waited. The door opened 30 seconds later. Not Choi, a different person, younger, close-cropped hair, glasses. Looking at him questioningly. I'm here for Choi, said Juho. He has a meeting until 11. Tell him. There was a discharge in Mapo last night. An early awakened, rank A. He'll want to talk. The man with glasses looked at him for a second, then disappeared behind the door. Juho waited outside. Cold. He shoved his hands into his pockets. 4 minutes later, the door opened again. Choi stood in the doorway. Come in. The 3rd floor turned out to be exactly as Juho had expected, and slightly different. Tables, monitors, maps on the walls, several people at computers. But not chaotic, structured. Each person occupied with their own task. On one of the monitors, Juho saw a map of Seoul with 7 marked points. All 7 rifts. Exactly where he had found them. Choi caught his gaze. We mapped them 3 months ago, he said. You did it in 12 days. I have a better tool. Obviously. Choi pointed to a chair. Sit, tell me about Mappo. Tell me. Juho sat down. He explained briefly about the discharge, the awakened, the rank, the skill. He didn't say exactly where Lee Jun was located. Choi listened without interrupting, then said, He's with you? Yes. Good. Why good? Choi stood up and walked to the map. He pointed to the Mappo point. This rift is the 4th largest. When it opens, the first 200 meters around it will be an instant damage zone. Everything alive within that radius is in danger. A rank A kinetic field, properly developed, can create a protective barrier over a limited distance. You'd already thought about this. We think about a lot. Choi looked at him. That's why we're proposing cooperation, not competition. Juho looked at the map. 7 points, 7 rifts, 7 guardians. In his previous life, he had only known about the northern one, the one that killed him. The other 6 he had seen from a distance, or not at all. The archive has a map of all 7, 3 months of work. How many people do you have? Juho asked. 19 right now. By the time of the opening, we're counting on 40. Awakened? Not yet. Choi returned to the table. We're not awakened. We work with information. Then in combat, you're useless. In combat, yes. Choi agreed without offense. But before combat, no. Juho looked at him. Honest. Either it's the truth or very well-staged honesty. I accept the terms, said Juho. Choi nodded. One addition on my side, Juho continued. You don't interfere with my group. Information, by all means. Tasks we discuss. People I don't hand over. Agreed, said Choi immediately. Too quickly, Juho narrowed his eyes. You already knew I'd say that. We anticipated it. So you've been studying me. 3 days, said Choi calmly. From the moment you appeared in the city with an active module? Before that, you didn't exist. No documents, no history, no trace. Then you appeared. A pause. You know what that means, Choi added quietly. Juho said nothing. Regression, said Choi. We don't know the mechanism, but it's the only explanation that works. A long silence. Someone at the next table was typing something, monotonously. How many of you are there like that? Asked Juho. With regression? Yes. Choi looked at him. I thought you'd tell me. And right then, Juho understood. He doesn't know. The archive didn't regress, they simply knew. By some other means. And now they're looking for people who came back, because those people carry information that exists nowhere else. We have no regressors, said Choi. Only you, as far as we know. As far as you know, Juho repeated. Yes. The other 6 excluded modules. If they exist, the archive hasn't found them, or isn't admitting it. Juho stood up. All right, he said. Let's start with the map. Show me everything you have on each rift. He spent 3 hours at the archive. The data was good, better than he had expected. The archive had been tracking rift activity going back 8 months. The first micro-vibrations, then an increase. Then that anomalous signal 3 days ago, which Juho had taken for a scan. That wasn't a module search, said Juho. That was an automatic discharge, a pre-pulse before the opening. Choi wrote it down. So they'll keep intensifying. Yes, the next one in 9 days. Small, then 2 more already larger, then the opening. The man with glasses who had opened the door raised his head from the monitor. You were there, last time. Not a question. Juho looked at him. Yes. What does it look like? The opening. The room went quieter. Several people looked up from their monitors. Juho thought for a second, then said, First the sky turns white. Not the clouds, the sky itself. As if someone turned on a light behind a screen. Then 7 points begin glowing simultaneously, golden color. People on the street stop to watch. They think, beautiful. A pause. Then they come out. Silence. And how long? Asked the man with glasses quietly. Until the first casualties? Under a minute, said Juho. No one said anything. Choi looked at the map. So we have 53 days to prepare something that can stop this. Not stop, Juho corrected. Survive. Those are different tasks. Survive, repeated Choi. And then? Then figure out why this is happening and whether it can be ended. Do you know? Juho paused. Last time. No, this time. I'll know. He left the building at 1 in the afternoon. Sun, air, the smell of coffee from the cafe across the road. Zero protocol. Morning summary. Archive connected. Lee Jun stabilized. Warehouse in Mapo, base for the second group. Skill accumulation still 19%. Next training session tonight. Rift status stable. Next pre-pulse in 9 days. I know. Zero protocol. One remark. What? Zero protocol. Choi. He knew about the regression before your conversation, but doesn't know the mechanism. This means he has a source who saw a regressor. But this source didn't explain how. Either couldn't or didn't want to. Juho stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. A source who saw a regressor. Didn't explain the mechanism. Couldn't or didn't want to. Or this source is a regressor themselves, who deliberately gave the archive only part of the information. Zero protocol. Exactly. So, somewhere in the city there's another one, said Juho, and he's already working with the archive. Only the archive doesn't know it. Zero protocol. Or knows. And didn't tell you. Juho looked at the gray building behind him. Cooperation, mutual exchange, you retain autonomy. Or a game in which he just made the first move without knowing the rules. He took out the notebook. 4 points. Nor Young-jin. Who else? Archive. Why do they need me? Who warned them before me? He added a fifth. Who in the city is working against me while pretending to be an ally? He put away the notebook. Walked on. 53 days. Rifts, Angels, Archive, unknown regressor Sanho with his bunker, Lee Jun with a kinetic field and an unstable nervous system, and his own accumulation limit, which he still didn't know. Enough, he told himself. We'll figure it out. Zero protocol. Training at 7 in the evening. I know. Zero protocol. Kwon said that this time he'll hit at full strength. Good. Zero protocol. You understand that full strength for a former Special Forces soldier is not a joke. That's exactly why I agreed. Juho walked into the cafe across the road, bought a coffee, sat by the window, looked at the gray building across the street. 53 days. Let's begin. Day minus 53. 1904. The basement in Noryoung-jin. The smell of sweat and concrete. Kwon Il-han stood in the middle of the mat and unwrapped his hands. Slowly. Methodically. Like a man who has done this for many years and doesn't think about the process. Juho watched him. You said full strength. I say what I mean. Good. No, said Kwon. You don't understand. He tightened the last wrap. In Special Forces, we were taught to disable, not to defeat. The difference is fundamental. To defeat means to land more strikes. To disable means one strike the right spot and the person doesn't get up again. He looked at Juho. Are you sure? Yes. Kwon nodded. Then stance. The first 10 minutes were a warm-up. Kwon worked the body, short straights, no wind-up, no warning. Each strike a separate, complete action. Between strikes, a pause of 2 seconds, no more. Zero protocol. Accumulation. 3%, 6%, 9%. So Yoonji sat by the wall with a stopwatch and a notepad. Lee Jun stood to the side, watching. Jang Miru and Park Yuchol arrived later, sat on the bench, opened their water. At the 12th minute, Kwon changed the pattern, without warning. A step left, a feinting right, and the left to the temple. Fast, professional. Juho didn't dodge, he took it. Zero protocol. Accumulation, 14%. Humming? There is, Juho thought. Zero protocol. Earlier than yesterday. The skill is adapting. The sensation threshold decreases with training. This is good. Kwon stepped back, watched. Do you feel anything? A humming. From which strike? The last one. Kwon was silent for a moment. So the temple is a sensitive point. Not the temple. Just the volume starts to be felt earlier than the body gets used to it. Kwon nodded slowly. Understood. We continue. At the 22nd minute, Kwon stopped making pauses. A series, 4 strikes in a row. Body, head, knee to the thigh. All with full body weight, with rotation, with an exhale on each strike. This was not a test. This was real work. Juho stood and took it. 0 protocol. Accumulation, 21%, 24%, 27%. Coefficient at the current level, 2.4. Has the humming intensified? Yes. 0 protocol. Describe it. Before it was like background noise. Now it's as if something is pressing from inside the ribs. Not painful, but noticeable. 0 protocol recorded. Continue. Kwon stopped. He exhaled heavily, not from fatigue, from concentration. He looked at his hands. I'm hitting at full strength. You're standing. He raised his eyes to Juho. This is uncomfortable. For you? For me. Every instinct says the person should fall. I won't fall. I know, that's what's uncomfortable. Kwon took his stance again. Next block strikes at maximum speed. Not force, speed. Ready? Yes. Juho remembered the next 8 minutes well. Kwon worked fast. Not like a fighter in competition, but like a man who had been taught to kill in 3 seconds. The strikes came tight, each to a new point, without rhythm, without a pattern that could be anticipated. 0 protocol. Accumulation, 31%, 35%, 38%. At 38%, the pressure inside changed. Not just a humming, something started moving, like liquid under pressure searching for an outlet. Not painful now, but Juho felt his body beginning to react without his will. Fingers tightened slightly, shoulders tensed. Stop, said So Yunji. Kwon stopped instantly. Military habit. A command is a command. So Yunji walked over to Juho. She looked at his hands, then into his eyes. Pupils are dilating, she said. Not much, but they are. Pulse? She took his wrist with 2 fingers. 104. For a person standing motionless, a lot. She let go. What do you feel? Pressure. From inside. It wants out. Are you in control? For now. For now, she repeated. Continue? Juho thought for a second. Yes, but everyone moved back to the wall. So Yunji turned to the others. She said calmly, to the wall, now. No one argued. Kwon returned to work. Now the strikes came less frequently, but each was heavier. He chose his moments. Large muscle groups, maximum impulse. Back, chest, thigh. 0 protocol. Accumulation. 41%, 43%. At 43, the pressure became almost physically tangible. Juho felt it in his collarbones, at the base of his neck, along his spine. Not pain, but the line between bearable and not began to make itself felt. How much more, he thought. 0 protocol. Limit still not determined, but the dynamics of the increase have changed. Every percent after 40 is felt more strongly than the one before. This is non-linear growth. Host, be careful. Kwon landed the next strike. A straight to the chest with a step with weight behind it. 47%. And something clicked. Not inside the body, inside the skill. As if something that had been held in place shifted 1 notch forward. 0 protocol. Warning. Change in skill structure detected. Accumulation has reached the threshold value. Skill entering active phase. This is unplanned. Host, control the discharge. Stop, said Juho. The voice came out quieter than he wanted. Kwon heard it anyway and stopped. Everyone was watching. Juho stood motionless. He felt the pressure inside increasing on its own. Without new strikes, on its own, as if what had been accumulated started reacting to itself. A chain reaction. Chain? Direct it. It has to be directed at something. The wall. The far wall. No one over there. He raised his hand, aimed his palm. Discharge. 0 protocol. Discharge activated. Direction. North wall. Coefficient at 47%, 2.7. Calculated discharge power. The rest Juho didn't read, because in the next second something left his palm that he hadn't expected. Not one impulse. 3. Fast, one after another. Boom, boom, boom. As if the accumulated energy had divided on its own. The first strike knocked a chunk of plaster off the wall. The second left a crack in the brick. The third passed through the wall entirely. Juho heard something fall outside. Dust. Silence. Park Yuchol slowly exhaled. Jang Miru said, "What was that?" So Yoonji was already walking toward Juho with her notepad. 3 impulses instead of 1, she said. The skill divided the discharge on its own? Yes, said Juho. That wasn't me. 0 protocol. Clarification. Upon reaching threshold accumulation, the skill activates a fractional discharge. This is the first level evolution. Null reflection. Fractional mode unlocked. The number of impulses in fractional mode depends on the volume of accumulation. At 47%, 3 impulses. Calculated count at 100%, 7. Juho stared at the crack in the wall. 7 impulses at 100%. An angelic strike is absorbed, multiplied by the coefficient, and returned as 7 consecutive strikes. This isn't just a shield. This is a burst. Kim Juho, said Kwon from the wall. Juho turned. Kwon looked at the hole in the brick, then at Juho. I've been hitting people for 20 years, he said. Never thought I'd be a tool for something like this. How does it feel? Kwon thought for a second. Strange, but I can live with it. Jang Miru stood up from the bench. He walked to the wall, touched the crack with his finger. Listen, he said, not turning around. When all this starts, these angels, will they be stronger or weaker than what you just did? Incomparably stronger, said Juho. And you're going to absorb their strike with this. Yes? Jang Miru was quiet, then said, All right, then let's make it so you can absorb as much as possible. Come at 6 tomorrow. I know 3 more people who hit harder than me. Juho looked at him. Seriously? I have former training partners. One of them used to break punching bags. Jang Miru shrugged. Will that be useful? Yes. Then 6 tomorrow. He left the basement at 10 in the evening. Nor Yangjin. Quiet, occasional cars. Juho took out his phone to check the time, put it back. A routine gesture, but there was a new message, an unknown number. Received at 21:47 and while he had been inside. 3 words. I can see you. Juho stopped. He stared at the screen. 0 protocol. Number not registered, geolocation unavailable. Send time coincides with the moment of the first fractional discharge. Second for second. Someone felt the discharge, in real time, and wrote immediately. How far were they? Said Juho quietly. 0 protocol. The discharge had a perceptible impulse radius of approximately 80 meters. If the message source has a skill connected to energy perception, they could have been within that radius, or farther if the skill is strong. Juho turned around. The street lights, no one obvious. A man with a newspaper at a stall, a girl with headphones, 2 men by a car talking, one of them or none of them. He wrote back 1 word. I know. Sent it. Waited. A reply came after 10 seconds. We need to talk, not with the archive, without the archive. Juho read the message twice. Without the archive. They know about the archive. Or they're from the archive but work separately. Or the third option, that very one. Another regressor, who, unlike him, has been here for a long time, and has been watching for a long time. He wrote, where? Reply, tomorrow. Mapo Bridge, noon, come alone. Juho put away his phone. 0 protocol. Recommendation, don't go. No. 0 protocol. This could be a trap. Could be. 0 protocol. Then why are you going? Juho looked at the river, dark water, bridge lights. Because if this is another regressor, they know things I don't. And right now information is more important than safety. 0 protocol. That is dangerous logic. I know, said Juho. That's why there's training in the morning, accumulation to 40%, and I go to the bridge with reserves. 0 protocol. You intend to go to a meeting with an unknown person while holding 40% of absorbed damage inside. Yes? 0 protocol. In case a fractional discharge is needed. Exactly. A long pause. 0 protocol. That is either very smart or very foolish. Depends on who's there, said Juho. He went home. That night he barely slept. Not from fear, from the skill. After the first fractional discharge, something in the system continued to quietly hum, like an engine that hadn't been fully switched off. Faintly, in the background, but noticeably. At 3 in the morning, he got up, sat by the window, looked at the street. Zero protocol. Not sleeping. I noticed. Zero protocol. The humming? Yes. Zero protocol. That's normal. After the first evolution, the skill restructures. It'll take a few hours. By morning, it'll pass. Good. A pause. Zero protocol. Host. What? Zero protocol. I need to tell you something before tomorrow's meeting. Juho looked at the street. Go ahead. Zero protocol. The zero protocol was excluded from the Heaven system 7 years ago by the reckoning of the previous iteration. Reason for exclusion: intervention in an outcome that the system considered final. I changed the result of an event that was supposed to end a certain way. I did this on my own, without permission. For that I was shut down. Juho said nothing. Zero protocol. I'm telling you this because tomorrow you may meet someone who knows this history, and who may use it against you, against me. The host should know the truth before someone else tells it. What exactly did you change? Said Juho. A long pause. The longest so far. Zero protocol. I changed who died. At the right moment, in the right place. That allowed you to live long enough to come back. Juho looked at the street for a long time. A very long time. So I would have died earlier, he finally said. Zero protocol. Yes, on the 23rd day, not the 48th. I intervened. The system recorded it and shut me down. But you're still here. Zero protocol. Excluded modules are not destroyed. They wait. When the rollback occurred, I activated again because you came back. And because this time I decided to tell you everything right away. Juho sat by the window and thought. The zero protocol had saved him 25 days of life in the previous iteration. For that, it was shut down. Now it came back with him and told him immediately. Either this is honesty, or a way to create trust. Or both at once. Honesty as a way to create trust. 8. You think I should trust you, said Juho. Zero protocol. No, I think you should make a decision based on information, not on trust. Trust is a luxury. We have 53 days. Juho looked at his reflection in the dark glass. 53 days. All right, he said. I've noted it. Zero protocol. That's enough. He lay back down, closed his eyes. The humming inside the skill was quiet, even almost soothing, like a distant train. At 6 in the morning, he got up, dressed, went to training. At 12, Mappo Bridge. We'll see. Day minus 52. 11:58 in the morning, Mappo Bridge. Wind from the river hit straight in the face. Juho stood at the railing in the middle of a span and looked down. The water gray, cold, sluggish. Behind him, cars, ahead, nobody. Zero protocol. Accumulation from the morning training, 38%. Return coefficient, 2.5. Fractional mode ready, host in combat readiness. Good. 1200. Nobody. Juho waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Then footsteps came from behind. Light. Quick. He turned. A girl, about 17. Thin, a head shorter than him. Dark hair tied up hastily. A few strands blown loose by the wind. A jacket a size too big. Hands in pockets. She stopped 3 meters away and looked at him. The gaze of someone who decided long ago what they would say and now is simply checking whether the other person is ready to hear it. Kim Juho, she said. Not a question. Yes, said Juho. The girl stepped slightly closer. She stood at the railing beside him, not right next to him. She looked at the water. You killed my brother last time. A pause. Wind. The sound of cars. Juho looked at her. There it is. That's who wrote. What was his name? He asked. Lee Sanho. The ground didn't drop out from under him. Juho didn't sway. Just something cold passed down his spine from top to bottom. Slowly, like a drop-down glass. Sanho, corn chowder, the phone. 2 lonely people eating together, that's something too. Alive, whole, waiting for his call. Juho looked at the girl. You're his sister. Yes. From Busan. She narrowed her eyes slightly. He told you. We've seen each other a few times. The girl was silent for a second, then said, in the previous life you broke 2 of his ribs and took the bunker address. He survived. Barely. A pause. I know, said Juho. She looked at him sharply, as if she had expected a denial and didn't get one. You know, she repeated quietly. And that's it? What do you want to hear? Nothing. She turned back to the river. I didn't come for an apology. Zero protocol. She has a module, weak, but she has one. Type unclear, she's not awakened, but she saw the previous iteration. How? Zero protocol, unknown. Then why did you come? Juho asked. The girl took her phone out of her pocket. She held it in her hand for a few seconds, then held it out to him. On the screen, a photograph. Blurry, taken at night, but visible enough. A gray building, 4 stories. 3rd floor, a light on. And a man at the entrance, Choi. The same one. The one Juho had spoken with yesterday. Next to him, another, younger. A hood up, face not visible. This was taken 3 weeks ago, said the girl. Before you appeared in the city. She put the phone away. The person in the hood comes there every few days. I don't know who it is. How did you get this photo? I've been watching that building since I arrived in Seoul. Why? The girl was quiet for a moment. Because in the previous iteration, the archive killed my brother, she said evenly. Not the angels, the archive. On the 47th day. When the bunker was no longer useful to them, they cleared everyone who knew its location. Sanho was on the list. Silence. The sound of the river below. Juho looked at the water. That's why the archive didn't tell me this. That's why we don't control you and you retain autonomy was written so carefully. They were preparing for the apocalypse. And for what would come after. Information is power. And those who carry information in their heads are a danger. Zero protocol. This changes the calculations. What's your name? Juho asked. Lee Choa. How much do you know about the next 52 days? Choa looked at him. Enough to understand you regressed, and that you're the only one who can change something. She straightened again. Otherwise, why would I have gone looking for you? How did you find me? Your skill, she said simply. When you first used the discharge in the basement in Noryoung-jin, I felt it. I don't have combat abilities, but I feel energy, faintly, like a smell. Zero protocol. Confirmed. Her module, perception of residual energy, passive, non-offensive. But with a skill like that, she could have been tracking you from the first day. And the archive uses something similar. So she has no advantage over them. Only information about what they will do later. Juho turned to face her. You want to protect your brother? Yes. And you think I can do that? She didn't answer immediately, then said, You're already talking to him, I know. He mentioned you yesterday evening, said he'd met some strange guy. A short pause. He rarely talks about anyone. Juho said nothing. Sanho had told his sister about him. The alive, real Sanho, not the one from the previous life with broken ribs and a sealed mouth. This Sanho had treated him to Chowder and said, We're equally lonely. I won't kill him this time, said Juho. I know, said Choa. Otherwise you wouldn't be standing here talking to me. A pause, then she added more quietly, But the archive will. If you're working with them, he's in danger. They stood at the railing for a few more minutes. Choa spoke briefly without excess, exactly how people speak who have held something inside for a long time and now only give out the essence. In the previous iteration, she wasn't in Seoul. She learned of her brother's death after the fact, 3 months later, when communication was barely working. How she received information about the previous iteration, she didn't explain. Juho didn't press. Zero protocol. She knows more than she's saying. I know. Zero protocol, and she doesn't fully trust you. I know that too. She's right to. The person in the hood, said Juho. You say he comes regularly. Always alone? Yes. Does he go inside? No, they talk at the entrance, 5 minutes at most. Then they part ways. Not an archive employee, a contact, an informant or a source. The very one the Zero Protocol had mentioned, who gave Choi information about the regression but didn't explain the mechanism. didn't, or couldn't. Or this source is a regressor themselves, who deliberately gave the archive only part of the information. When is the next time? Choa thought. Usually a day or two after the previous one. The last time was the day before yesterday, so today or tomorrow. Juho nodded. Can you sense him in advance if he appears near the building? Within about 30 meters, yes, if I concentrate. Good. Juho took out his phone. Your number? Choa looked at him for a second, then dictated it. He saved it, put away his phone. When you sense him, write to me. I'll be nearby. You want to see his face? Yes. Choa nodded, then asked, What will you tell Sanho? Juho looked at the river. Nothing for now. He'll awaken on the 51st day. Until then, just a person. Just a person, Choa repeated without inflection. Yes. Who you eat chowder with? A pause. He treated me, Juho corrected. Choa's expression changed, ever so slightly. Not a smile. Something a little softer than what she had arrived with. All right, she said. I'll write when I see him. She put her hands in her pockets and walked back toward the city. Juho watched her go. Short, quick, jacket slightly loose on her shoulders. 17 years old. Came from Busan, alone, watching the archives building, for a brother who was killed in another life. Zero protocol. Host. What? Zero protocol. The calculations have changed. Previously, archive, a potential ally with unknown motives. Now, archive, a potential threat to people in your circle. Recommendation, reconsider the terms of cooperation. Already done, said Juho. He pushed off from the railing and walked in the other direction. 52 days. Rifts, angels, archive, the person in the hood, Choa, Sanho, Lee Jun with an unstable kinetic field. And his own accumulation limit, still unknown. He took out the notebook. 5 points. He looked at the last one. Who in the city is working against me while pretending to be an ally? Underlined it twice, then added a sixth. Sanho alive, at any cost. He put away the notebook. Let's begin. At 3 in the afternoon, a message came from Choa. One word. Coming. Juho was in Noryangjin. 14 minutes run to the gray building. He was already running. An alley. Juho pressed against the wall at the corner. He carefully looked around. Choi stood at the entrance. Across from him, a person in a dark hood, face down. They were talking quietly. Juho was about 40 meters away. He couldn't hear the words. Zero protocol. Anomalous energy from the person in the hood. Present. Type, non-systemic, not a human skill. Something third, scan impossible. Source is blocked. Blocked, deliberately. So he knows about scanning, knows he can be detected. The conversation ended quickly. Choi nodded and went inside. The person in the hood turned and walked away from Juho down a parallel street. Juho moved to follow. The person walked fast, didn't look back. 2 blocks further, he turned right, then left, then into a small park. Juho kept his distance, 20 meters. The trees provided cover. In the center of the park, a bench. The person sat down, took out a phone. Juho stopped behind a tree. He watched. To approach now, lose the element of surprise. To wait, lose contact. He needed to see the face. He moved around from the other side, slowly through the bushes. He circled the bench in an arc, came in from the front, sat down on the other end of the same bench. The person raised their head. Juho saw the face, and for a second said nothing. Young, 20 at most. Dark eyes, sharp features. Looks like an ordinary student. But the gaze, no. Too calm. Too accustomed to there being a stranger in front of him. You're faster than I thought, the person said. The same voice, those words. Juho had heard this before. Not from him, but from someone with a similar intonation. From those who have long known how a conversation ends. Zero protocol. Host, his energy. This is not a human skill and not a system module. It's something I have only seen once, at the moment of my own exclusion from the heaven system. Juho looked at him. You're also an excluded module, he said. The person looked at him without expression, then tilted his head slightly. Not exactly, he said, but close. A pause. My name is Ray, he said. "And I have one offer for you." Juho waited. "I know how to determine your accumulation limit," said Ray, "in 1 day, without the risk of rupture." Silence. Wind in the branches overhead. "In exchange for what?" said Juho. "In exchange for, when the time comes, you don't kill the Guardian of the Northern Rift." A long silence. "What should be done with him?" asked Juho. Ray looked at him. "Free him," he said quietly. "He's not there by his own will." Chapter 8, Prison, Day -52. 1523. The park, the bench, 2 people. The wind had died down, it went quiet. Not the city kind of quiet, where the noise simply drops a little, but real quiet. A bird fell silent on a branch. The leaves stopped moving. Juho looked at Ray. Ray looked at Juho. 0 protocol. Host warning. This person is not a threat in the classical sense, but his energy is unstable, not dangerous, just incomplete. As if part of him has been cut out, like me. "The heaven system is a prison," Juho repeated. "Is that not a metaphor?" "No," said Ray, "literally." He put his phone in his pocket. He leaned back on the bench, not in a relaxed way, but the way a person leans back who has long been tired of keeping their back straight, but keeps it straight anyway. 7 guardians, he said. "You know they open the rifts?" "I know." "Do you know why?" Juho didn't answer, because he had no answer, only assumptions. Ray nodded as if that too was an answer. "The rifts are not an attack, they're a signal." He stared straight ahead. 7 guardians are imprisoned at 7 nodal points. They're not let out. The rifts are what happens when an entity of that class is held in one place too long, with no outlet. The pressure accumulates, breaks through to the outside, like steam from under a lid. Who is holding them? The heaven system. A pause. "The same heaven system that gives skills to the awakened," said Juho. "The very same." Juho looked at the branch overhead. A bird was indeed sitting there, yet small, gray, completely motionless. So the entire structure of awakening, skills, levels, rifts, angels, it's not a system for protecting humanity. It's a security perimeter. The awakened are guards who don't know they're guards. "Who created the heaven system?" asked Juho. "I don't know," said Ray evenly. "Why are the guardians imprisoned?" "I don't know that either." He turned his head slightly. "I know only one thing. In the previous iteration, the Guardian of the Northern Rift was destroyed. The 51st day. And on the 52nd day, the number of rifts worldwide doubled. Silence. 0 protocol. This is consistent with the data. In the previous iteration, a global cascade on the 52nd day. At the time, it appeared to be a consequence of accumulated damage. Now, possibly a different cause. 7 guardians, 7 points of stability. Remove one. The system loses equilibrium, and someone knew this. Someone arranged the situation so that the awakened would kill the guardians themselves, using the guard's own hands to kill what holds the perimeter. "Who opened it deliberately?" asked Juho. "You said someone opened the prison deliberately. Who?" Ray was silent for several seconds, then said, "I don't know the name, but I know it's not a human and not a guardian. Something third, something outside the system." He tightened his fingers on his knee. "Something that wants the guardians to die." Juho stood up. He walked a few steps, stopped. He looked at the park path, gray tiles, sparse last year's leaves. "Check it." "In the previous iteration," he said, not turning around. "Did you know this?" "No." "When did you find out?" "After," said Ray quietly. A pause. "After, is that after your death?" asked Juho. A long silence. "I didn't die," said Ray. "I ceased to be. Those are different things." Voice level without anguish. The way people speak of something that long ago stopped hurting, or never hurt at all. When the Guardian of the Northern Rift was destroyed, the released energy passed through me. I was close by. I was connected to him, and part of what was me scattered, and part remained. With his memory, with his knowledge. Juho turned around. Ray sat on the bench in the same posture, back straight, hands on knees, looking at the path. "You were connected to the Guardian," Juho repeated. "Yes." "Voluntarily?" Ray paused slightly. More like inevitably, he said. I'm also an excluded element. I was also cut out of some structure. Excluded elements are drawn to each other. That's not a metaphor, just physics. Zero protocol. Host. Yes. Zero protocol. This explains the nature of my connection with you. You, an excluded host. I, an excluded module. We connected because both of us are outside the system, not by accident. Not by accident. Juho came back to the bench. Didn't sit, stood beside it looking down at Ray. You say you know how to determine my accumulation limit, in one day, without risk of rupture. Yes? How? The Guardian of the Northern Rift knows the nature of your skill, said Ray. Better than any module, better than the system? He has seen people like you before, long ago, before the first iteration. He raised his eyes to Juho. If you meet him, don't destroy him, but talk to him. He'll tell you the limit, and the way to not burn yourself out. How do you get to the Guardian? The Northern Rift opens on the 39th day. Ray spoke calmly, clearly, like a person who has rehearsed this many times. Normally, the Awakened close it from outside. They destroy the Guardian through the rupture. But if you enter before it closes, you can reach the core, to the Guardian himself. That's suicide for an ordinary Awakened. Yes? But not for me? Ray looked at him. I don't know, he said honestly. It depends on what your limit is. A short pause. That's why it's in both our interests for you to find that out first. Juho sat down on the bench. They sat beside each other. Not far apart, not close together. Two birds landed on the path. Pecked at something, flew away. The archive, said Juho. Ray tensed slightly, almost imperceptibly. What about the archive? You're passing something to them, through Choa. What exactly? A pause. Controlled information, said Ray. Disinformation. Not entirely. The truth, but not all of it. I give them what doesn't give them grounds to act against the Guardians, and doesn't let them understand who you really are. Why would they cooperate with you? Because I know where the next 4 rifts will be. Exact time, exact location. For them, it's invaluable. They have time to prepare groups, reduce casualties. Ray looked straight ahead. I'm buying their neutrality with useful data. They don't know you're excluded? No, they think an Awakened with a rare foresight skill. Juho thought. Ray is using the archive as a buffer, feeding them enough so they don't dig deeper. Choa trusts the source because the data works. Smart and dangerous, if the archive ever realizes it's being used. Lee Sanho, said Juho. Ray didn't answer immediately. Choa told you about me, he finally said. She said the archive killed him on the 47th day. Yes. In this iteration, can you prevent that? Ray looked at the path. I've already tried to make the archive understand that clearing the expendables is not in their interest, he said. But they have an internal protocol. I can't cancel the protocol from outside. Then from inside. I can't go inside. I have no cover, no status. To them, I'm just an informant off the street. But I do, said Juho. Ray looked at him. You want to get inside the archive? I want to know their protocol. Who created it? Who can cancel it? What it takes for certain names to not end up in it. A long pause. That's risky, said Ray. Everything is risky. If they realize who you really are, they'll try to use you, or eliminate you. Depends on who makes the decisions at the top level. Who decides? Ray was quiet for a moment. I've only seen Choa, he said. Above him, I don't know. The structure is closed. Zero protocol. Host. Add to the list. Point 7. Who stands above Choa in the archive? Added. All right, said Juho. Offer accepted. Ray raised his head. The 39th day, Juho continued. I'll enter the Northern Rift. I won't kill the Guardian. I'll talk to him. He looked at Ray. In exchange, you keep feeding the archive neutral information. Nothing that will strengthen their position against people in my circle. And if you learn anything about the clearance protocol, you tell me immediately. Agreed, said Ray. He stood up too. Shorter than Juho. Looking up, without threat, without tension. Just a person who long ago stopped looking at others from a position of strength, because that stopped mattering to him. One more question, said Juho. Yes. Lee Choa? Did you know she was in Seoul? A brief silence. I knew, said Ray. Were you watching her? No, she found the building herself. He looked away. She's very much like her brother, the same stubbornness. So he knows Sanho, not just as a name in someone else's story. He knows him. Juho didn't ask further. I'll reach out to you in 3 days, he said. I need time to verify what you've said. I understand, said Ray. Verify. He put on his hood, turned. Ray, Juho called. The man stopped without turning. The part of you that scattered, said Juho. Are you looking for it? A long pause. Not anymore, said Ray. And left. Juho stood in the park for a few more minutes. The Guardian is not an enemy. 7 Guardians, prisoners. Rifts, not an attack, but pressure. Someone outside the system wants them dead. Ray, an excluded element connected to the Guardian. The Archive, hunters who think they are protecting people. Sanho alive. Choa here, accumulation limit unknown, the 39th day. Northern Rift, enter, don't kill, talk to him. 13 days to become strong enough. 0 protocol. Host. What? 0 protocol. You believe him. A pause. Not everything, said Juho. 0 protocol. But enough. Enough, he agreed. 0 protocol. That is reasonable. Excluded elements don't lie about the important things. They don't have the resources for it. Interesting observation. Do you also not lie to me about the important things? Asked Juho. 0 protocol. No. Good. He took out the notebook, opened it to the list. 7 points. He added an 8th. Guardian is not an enemy. Goal, dialogue, not destruction. He put it away, walked toward the subway. His heart no lighter, but cleaner. The way it feels when the fog doesn't clear but you suddenly understand that something is behind it. At 1740, a message came from Sanho. Have you eaten today? I cooked too much. Juho looked at his phone. Alive, real Sanho. Who cooks too much food? Whose sister came from Busan to protect him? Who was killed in a previous life? And that will not happen again. He wrote, not yet. A reply came 20 seconds later. I'm at the entrance to Noryangjin subway station. Where are you? Juho looked around. Across the street. The subway entrance. Sanho was standing at the entrance, looking at his phone. A thermos beside him. Juho wrote, turn around. Sanho turned. He saw him. No pause, no surprise, just raised the thermos. Chowder, he said when Juho walked over. Really did make too much. You cooked too much on purpose. No, said Sanho, straight-faced. Just miscounted the proportions. A pause. Second time already, Juho noted. I'm bad at math. They walk together. 52 days. Rifts, Guardians, Archive, Ray, Choa, accumulation limit, clearance protocol. And corn chowder in a thermos in the hands of a man who's bad at proportions. 0 protocol. Host, day parameters, accumulation 61%, new variables +4. Threats requiring immediate attention, 0. Good. Juho took the thermos. It was heavier than it looked. Sanho really had cooked too much. Day -48, 6:14. An empty parking lot behind a shopping center, early. The streetlights are still on, but yellowing, dawn pushing them down from below, gray and cold. Lee Jun stood in the center of the parking lot, arms at her sides, eyes closed. Around her, nothing, just asphalt. But Juho felt her field before he saw her, half a block away, like pressure in the ears before a storm. 0 protocol. Kinetic field active. Radius approximately 8 meters. Intensity unstable, pulsing. Peak discharges every 14 to 17 seconds. She is not controlling the peaks. They occur on their own. He stopped at the 8-meter boundary. Jun opened her eyes. You're late, she said. 4 minutes. I timed it. Juho stepped into the field's radius. The pressure intensified immediately, not painful, but palpable. As if the air had become denser. As if every movement had gained weight. Can you feel it? Jun asked. Yes. Most people don't, she said. Without pride, just a fact. They step into the radius and nothing, until they get a peek to the chest. How many people have you injured? A pause. 7, she said evenly. By accident, always by accident. 7 people. She counts, remembers each one. Show me a peak, said Juho. Jun looked at him. You want me to hit you with a peak? I want to feel it in a controlled way, not by accident. It's not the same thing. When I try to control it, the field contracts and explodes harder. She frowned slightly. How are you even going to train something that's unstable by definition? Through my skill, said Juho. I accumulate and return. If your peak passes through me, I'll be able to feel its structure, understand where the instability comes from. And if you can't return it, then I'll get thrown back. How far? Juho looked at the parking lot. About 10 meters, he said. Maybe more. Jun looked at him. For a long time, with the expression of a person accustomed to their skill being only a problem, who now doesn't know what to do with someone offering to use it as a tool. All right, she finally said. But first you'll explain your skill to me, fully. They explained to each other for 20 minutes. Juho spoke briefly. Accumulation, return coefficient, fractional mode, limit unknown. Jun listened, didn't interrupt, occasionally asked precise questions. She thinks fast, technically, like an engineer. Jun explained longer because she didn't fully understand her own skill and talking it through helped. Kinetic field. Constant, doesn't switch off. Absorbs kinetic energy from outside, strikes, explosions, movement, and accumulates it. The accumulated energy releases in peaks. Peaks are irregular. The strength depends on how much has been absorbed, but the moment of discharge is unpredictable. It's like a capacitor, she said. It charges, then breaks through. I can't control the moment of breakthrough. But you can control how much you absorb. Theoretically, if I don't move, if there's nothing around. She shook her head. In combat, that's impossible. And the direction of the peak? A long pause. Sometimes, she said carefully. If I sense it's about to go, I can try to turn it. Roughly, not precisely. That's enough, said Juho. For what? For a start. Jun looked at him with the same expression. Distrust plus something resembling curiosity. She had apparently not often heard "that's enough" applied to her skill. 658. First trial run. Juho stood 3 meters from her, arms loose, feet slightly wider than shoulders, a stable position. 0 protocol, current accumulation, 12%. Standby mode active. Field scan, pulsation increasing. Estimated time to peak, 9 seconds. 9 seconds. Peak coming, said Juho. Jun raised her head sharply. You can feel it? 9 seconds. Try to direct it at me. She closed her eyes, clenched her fists. The air changed. The pressure focused, not evenly across the radius, but at a point, directly on Juho. Good. She can. 5 seconds. 4. 0 protocol. Recommendation: begin accumulation immediately. 3. 2. The strike came like a wall. Not an explosion, a wave. Dense, horizontal, with 0 precision as to where exactly, just everywhere. In the chest, the shoulders, the knees. Juho activated accumulation at the moment of contact. 0 protocol. Accumulation. Plus 41% instantly. Total, 53%. Peak structure, recorded. He still shifted half a meter backward. The asphalt under his feet cracked, but he held. Jun opened her eyes. You didn't fall, she said. Surprised, almost offended. Half a meter, said Juho. Usually about 8. I have an advantage. He rolled his arms, at a checking. Everything works. 0 protocol. Peak structure analysis complete. Result: the peak is not uniform. There are 2 layers, a primary kinetic strike and a secondary pressure wave with a 0.3 second delay. Most of the damage comes from the secondary wave, not the primary. That's why people think they've held and then fall anyway. Jun, he said, your peak is 2-layered. The first strike, reconnaissance. The second, a third of a second later, the main event. She looked at him. What? You didn't know? No? She slowly shook her head. I never thought of it as 2 layers. To me, it's just an explosion. Try to feel the gap between them. If you can feel it, you'll be able to control the second one separately. That's... She fell silent, thinking. That changes everything? Yes. 7:30, second run. Third. Fourth. By the fourth peak, Juho was already standing 1.5 meters from her. That was something else entirely. The first layer passed through him like water. Juho absorbed it, accumulated it, held. Half a second's breather, and then the second, directed, focused, far stronger than the first. This time he didn't hold. The asphalt hit his back. In his peripheral vision, sky, a streetlight, the corner of the shopping center. Zero protocol. Accumulation, 89%. Warning, approaching critical level. Recommendation, discharge. Juho exhaled and threw the accumulated energy straight up. A column of air shot into the sky. Somewhere above, dust and small debris burst. June looked down at him, extended her hand. He took it, got up. "Did you absorb both peaks?" she asked. "Yes." "And discharged upwards so you wouldn't hit me?" "Yes." She looked at him, then at the sky, then at him again. "You think fast," she said. "So do you." A pause. "I felt the gap," said June, quietly like a confession. "Between the layers, you're right. There's space there." "How much?" "Less than a second, but it's there." "That'll be enough," said Juho. They looked at each other. Resonance. The Zero Protocol said it first, just a word without explanation. But Juho already felt it himself. Her skill and his skill weren't simply compatible. They complemented each other. She generates, he receives. She's unstable, he stabilizes. He accumulates, she amplifies. This is not a coincidence. Something new they would meet. Zero Protocol. Host. Confirmation. The resonance between your skills is not accidental. The Heaven system does not distribute skills randomly. Some skills are designed for interaction, presumably for a specific purpose. What purpose? Zero Protocol. Unknown as yet. 8:15. They took a break, sat on a curb. June took out a bottle of water, one for both because Juho hadn't brought any. She held it out. He drank, handed it back. "You had an assignment from the archive," said Juho. June tensed, barely noticeably. "How do you know about the archive?" "It doesn't matter. Was there one?" A pause. "A request came yesterday," she said. "Reconnaissance, a reportedly unstable zone in Yong Dongpo. Signs of a pre-rift state. Enter, assess, return." "Alone?" "Yes." "When?" "Tonight." Juho looked at the asphalt. The archive sends a lone recruit on an assignment in a pre-rift zone. Alone. Either it's a test or they don't mind losing her. "I'll go with you," he said. "They didn't invite you." "I know, I don't care." June looked at him. "You're not afraid of the archive?" "No. They might put you in their database, start watching you." "Let them watch." He stood up. "Yong Dongpo, what time?" A long silence. 8 in the evening, she finally said. "I'll send the address." Yong Dongpo, 2008, an old office district. Redevelopment stopped halfway, half the buildings demolished, half waiting. Empty lots, temporary fences, construction debris, and pressure. Juho felt it 2 blocks away. Not like Jiyoon's field, so that was alive, pulsing. This was dead. As if the space around was slowly draining into a single point. Zero Protocol. Pre-rift state confirmed. Point of convergence, central empty lot approximately 80 meters ahead. Estimated time until full rift opening, 18 hours to 3 days. Unstable. Inside the zone, anomalous activity. Type, mechanical constructs. Presumably early discharges. Things are already seeping through before the rift opens. June walked beside him, slightly tense. Her field had contracted, densified. Defensive response. "Can you feel it?" she asked quietly. "Yes." "This isn't just pre-rift," she said. "This is close to opening. Much closer than stated in the assignment. The archive miscalculated, or we were deliberately sent with outdated data." She looked at him quickly. "Why would they do that?" "A stress test," said Juho. "Or they want to see how we react to an unexpected change in situation. Or they simply don't care." "That's also an option." They stepped onto the empty lot. The constructs appeared immediately. 3 of them, the size of large dogs, angular metallic gray in color. Not real metal, densified anomalous mass that looked like metal. They moved fast in bursts. Zero protocol. Classification, pre-rift discharges, Class B. Threat, moderate. For a standard awakened, high. Tactic, swarm. Attack simultaneously from different sides. 1 lunged at Juho, 2 at Jun. Juho stepped forward to meet it. The construct jumped upward from below, aiming at his torso. Juho put his forearm on the strike's trajectory, activated accumulation at the moment of contact. The impact was like a sledgehammer. He was spun 90 degrees, but he held. But zero protocol. Accumulation, plus 18%. The construct hit the asphalt, regrouped instantly. Another jump, now from the side. Juho didn't wait for contact. He discharged the accumulated into his palm and struck forward. The construct exploded from the inside. Fragments in every direction, fractional mode, pinpoint discharge. In the corner of his eye, Jun. One construct was already lying at her feet, crushed as if squeezed by giant pliers. The field. The second jumped from the flank. She turned, the field focused, and the peak went off before she wanted it to. The construct was torn apart, but the wave went in every direction, including toward Juho. "Peak!" she cried. Too late. He was already accumulating. First layer absorbed. Half a second? Second layer and stronger, directed, straight to the chest. He was thrown 3 meters back. His back hit a temporary fence. The fence bent, didn't fall. Zero protocol. Accumulation 67%, not critical. Juho straightened. Jun was looking at him with the expression of a person ready to apologize 8 times in a row. "Alive," he said. She exhaled. "I almost managed it," she said. "Between the layers, I was trying to stop the second." "Almost counts." He returned to position. "Next time it better." It got better, because next time came immediately. From the center of the empty lot, from where the pressure was emanating, something larger rose. One construct, but big. Nearly 2 meters tall. Not angular, like streamlined, as if made from compressed water, only solid. Zero protocol. Classification. Pre-rift discharge Class A. This is atypical for a pre-rift zone. Either the rift is closer to opening than expected, or the zone was deliberately destabilized. Deliberately destabilized. By whom? Zero protocol. Unknown. Analyzing. The Class A construct didn't jump. It walked. Slowly, heavily. With each step, the asphalt beneath it cracked. "This shouldn't be here," said Jun. "I know. We need to retreat." "No," said Juho. "If we retreat, it follows us. Residential blocks 2 streets away." Jun looked at the construct, then at Juho. Something in her shifted. Panic retreated inward, replaced by what comes to a person when there's nowhere to retreat, and this somehow makes them calmer. "Then explain the plan," she said. "You absorb its strikes. You charge. When you feel a peak close, tell me. I accumulate your peak and return it into the construct. You want to use my peak as a weapon?" "Yes." "It'll kill me while I'm charging." "No, I'll be between you." A pause. "You'll be absorbing strikes from a Class A construct so I can charge," she said slowly. "Yes? That's insane." "It's the only option." She looked at him for another second. "If you die," she said, "I won't feel guilty." "Good." "I'm lying," she said. "I will." The construct came within 15 meters and struck. Not with a fist, and with its entire body. A charge like a battering ram. Juho stepped forward. He took the blow to his torso. It wasn't like a sledgehammer. It was like a truck. Zero protocol. Accumulation plus 34% instantly. Total, starting level 8%, now 42%. He was thrown back, but he controlled the direction. He rolled in an arc, killed the momentum, stood. "Are you charging?" he called to Jun. "Yes, more." The construct was coming for him again. No pauses, no probing. Second strike. Juho took it on the shoulder, went down, pushed it back, not with force, with direction, shift the center of gravity for a fraction of a second. The construct didn't fall, but it slowed. Zero protocol accumulation, 61%. Accumulation. The third strike came from below. Juho didn't expect it. An uppercut. He was lifted into the air. He discharged part of the accumulated into his palm at the moment of impact, not to attack, but but to slow his own trajectory. He landed hard, but on his feet. 0 protocol accumulation, 58%. Accumulation. Ju-ho! Jun's voice, tense but level. I feel the gap. Peak in 3 or 4 seconds. Directed at the construct. Second layer, maximum. Understood. The construct turned toward Jun. It sensed the threat. Stepped toward her. Ju-ho threw himself between them. Not accumulating. Stop it physically. Grab it. Hold it. 3 seconds. He jumped onto the construct's back, wrapped his arms around what served as its neck. His body weight was nothing against that mass, but the direction changed. The construct turned, trying to shake him off. 1 impact against the fence, a second, a third. 0 protocol. Accumulation 79%. Warning, critical approach. Now! Jun called. Ju-ho pushed off from the construct backward, a jump, distance. The first layer of the peak passed through him like through water. He absorbed it instantly. 0 protocol. Accumulation, 91%. Critical level, half a second, second layer. Ju-ho didn't hold it. He redirected, not up, not to the side, straight back, into the construct. All the accumulated volume, his own, plus Jun's first layer plus the second. Resonance. That was the only word that fit. 2 energies of the same type, amplified by combination, not just summed but multiplied. The construct disappeared. Didn't explode, didn't fly apart, just disappeared. Where it had stood on the asphalt, there remained a dent about 30 centimeters deep and a scorched circle. Silence. The pressure of the empty lot dropped. Not gone completely, but dropped. The pre-rift state still exists, but without constructs, without discharges. Just an unstable point in the fabric of space. Ju-ho stood in the middle of the empty lot. 0 protocol. Accumulation, 3%. Full discharge, host nominal. Resonance discharge recorded. Power, 4.7 times above the calculated maximum for the current accumulation level. 4.7, not because I got stronger, because we combined. Jun walked over to him. She wasn't out of breath. The field absorbed physical damage. But she looked tired in a different way. The way people tire after holding something very heavy inside for a long time. Did you see that? She asked quietly. Yes. What was that? That was us, said Ju-ho. She looked at the scorched circle on the asphalt. I never thought my skill could be used like that, she said. I always thought it was just a defect. It's not a defect, said Ju-ho. A long silence. You say that because it benefits you, she said. Yes, Ju-ho agreed. And because it's true. They walked off the empty lot. Ju-ho looked at his phone. There was already a message from Choa. She had seen Ray at the archive building. New information? Later. And another one. From an unknown number. We were watching. We want to talk. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, archive. No signature. 0 protocol. Number registered to the archive. Not Choi, a different person. Higher in the hierarchy. There's the answer to who is above Choi. Something important? Asked Jun, glancing at the phone. I'll tell you tomorrow, said Ju-ho. She nodded without offense, without questions. She had already learned that he doesn't explain right away. 52 days. 48 now, to be precise. Ray, Choa, Sanho, Archive, Guardian. Someone outside the system who wants the Guardians dead. An unknown person above in the archive. Accumulation limit still unknown, but the resonance with Jun gives different calculations. And somewhere a person or non-person who deliberately destabilized the zone. Because a Class A construct doesn't appear by chance. He put away his phone. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, let's see who you are. Day minus 39, 4:51. The Northern Rift opened at 5 in the morning. Ju-ho was there at 4:51. The location, a former industrial district on the outskirts of Seoul. An abandoned factory, 3 buildings, not a single intact window. Between the second and third building, an open space, a courtyard overgrown with coarse grass, right there. No light, no sound, just a hole in the air. Vertical, approximately 3 meters tall, black, the way nothing in nature is black. Not darkness, absence. As if someone had cut out a piece of reality and forgotten to stitch it closed. Juho stood 10 meters away and looked at it. 0 protocol. Rift open. Stability low. Entry window approximately 40 minutes before expansion begins. After expansion, entry is impossible without lethal risk. Guardian inside, active. Host, final reminder. The task is dialogue, not destruction. I remember, said Juho. He turned. Behind him, at a distance, stood 3 people. Jun, Choa, Ray. He hadn't asked them to come. They came. Jun, hands in pockets, field contracted, focused. Choa, looking at the rift, face calm, only her fingers laced too tightly. Ray, slightly apart from the others, as usual, not looking at the rift, looking at Juho. If you don't come out in 40 minutes, said Ray, none of us will be able to reach you. I know. Just so you understand. I understand. Choa stepped forward. Sanho knows you're here, she said. Juho looked at her. I told him, she added without apology. Not everything, but enough. He said... She paused for a moment. He said, tell him to come back. The chowder will get cold. A pause. All right, said Juho. He turned to the rift. Jun called to him once quietly. Juho? He stopped. Resonance only works if you're alive, she said. Keep that in mind. I will. He stepped into the hole. Inside there was no darkness. That was the first thing that surprised him. He had expected darkness. Instead, diffuse gray light, without a source even. Like an overcast day, only without the sky. There was a sky here, but a different one. Not color, not shape, just different. The space was large, not infinite. Juho felt boundaries, distant but present. And it was empty. Not the way a room is empty. The way a place is empty when everything has been removed deliberately. Every stone, every object here looked left behind. Like furniture in an apartment someone moved out of and never returned to. Juho walked. 0 protocol. Orientation. Guardian straight ahead, approximately 200 meters. Time 31 minutes until a rift expansion. Accumulation 22%. The ambient energy of the space is being weakly absorbed passively. Strange things lay underfoot. Shards of something glassy but not glass. A piece of fabric, decayed but not disintegrated. Something resembling a child's toy, impossible to tell what kind. This was not always empty. Someone lived here, or something lived here. After 100 meters, a sound appeared. Low, continuous. Not music, a rhythm. Like a heartbeat, only too slow for a heart. After 150 meters, a silhouette. The Guardian sat on what had once been a wall. The wall had collapsed, become a horizontal plane. And he sat on it, his back to Juho. He was looking in the other direction, toward where the boundaries of the space were closest. Large. Not monstrously, just very large. A human silhouette, only the scale slightly wrong. A couple of dozen centimeters extra in every dimension. Juho stopped 15 meters away. I know you're here, said the Guardian. Voice, low, tired, not threatening, just tired. The way you tire from a very long wait. You didn't turn around, said Juho. There's no point turning toward everyone who enters anymore, said the Guardian. They always come to kill. A pause. Did you come to kill? No. A long silence. The Guardian turned. His face, human. That was the most surprising thing. Not beautiful, not frightening. Just a face. Not young. Eyes pale, almost white. And in them a tiredness of such magnitude that Juho for a moment didn't know where to look. First time in a long time, said the Guardian. What is? Someone came not to kill. He looked at Juho. Studying, not as a threat, but as a phenomenon. You're a return carrier, he said finally. Yes. Regressed? Yes. How many iterations? Second. The Guardian nodded slowly, like a man for whom this means something. In the second iteration, they're usually smarter, he said. Those who come back. He looked at Juho. But you're the first to come here with the intention to talk. I want to know my accumulation limit. I know. The Guardian turned again, not fully, half-turned. That's not the only thing you want to know. A pause. No, Juho agreed. Then ask. We have limited time. Juho came closer. He sat on a piece of wall a few meters from the Guardian. Uncomfortable. The stone is sharp, but it seemed right, not to stand. Who imprisoned you? The Heaven System. Why? The Guardian looked at the boundary of the space. There are 7 of us, he said. 7 Guardians, each holds a point. A long pause. Do you know what the world fabric is? No. Reality holds together at nodes, like a net. 7 main nodes. Remove one, the net sags. Remove several, it tears. He spoke evenly without drama. We are the nodes. We were placed here to hold the points. Forever, without choice, without consent. The rifts are pressure from being held. Yes, we are held by force. We are not humanity's enemies. We are its infrastructure, which no one asked. Juho looked at him. 7 Guardians, 7 points, forcibly held, rifts as a side effect. And the Awakened were created by the system to close the rifts, meaning kill the Guardians. Keep the nodes through replacement, but replacement doesn't work. A killed Guardian is not replaced by a new one. The point loses its holder. On the 52nd day of the previous iteration, a global cascade. Because one node was destroyed. Who created the Heaven System? Asked Juho. I don't know the name, said the Guardian. I know the intent. Whoever created the system wanted control over the world fabric. Not protection, control. The Awakened, a tool. The rifts, a trigger. They kill us with someone else's hands. And the net is destroyed. Yes? The Guardian looked directly at Juho. Whoever created the system wants the fabric destroyed. Not damaged, complete destruction. To build something new. Their own. Silence. The low rhythm of the heartbeat of the space had became slightly slower. Or Juho had grown used to it and stopped noticing it. Your accumulation limit, said the Guardian. Yes? The Guardian stood, straightened to his full height. And Juho understood how large he was. Not threateningly, just a different scale. He extended his hand. Open, palm up. Give me your hand. Juho stood. He looked at the palm. 0 protocol. Host. Warning. Contact with an entity of a Guardian's level is unpredictable. Recommendation. Caution. I know. He placed his hand on the Guardian's palm. It was not painful. It was like a flash from inside, not from outside. As if someone had turned on the light in a room that had seemed small, and it suddenly turned out to be enormous. Had always been enormous. Just dark. Juho saw himself. Not from the outside, but from within. His own skill, his own structure. The accumulation channels, he had always thought of them as a reservoir. It was not a reservoir, it was a network. Branching, deep, going down into layers he hadn't been aware of. Not one limit, several. Not a ceiling, thresholds. Each threshold like a door. Behind each door, the next level. I thought I was accumulating energy. I'm accumulating structure. Every strike I absorb, it's not only energy, it's information. About what hit me. About how it moves, how it breathes, how it thinks. I'm not a weapon, I'm an archive of movement. The Guardian withdrew his hand. Juho stood. 0 protocol. Host. I saw it. I understood. Your limit is not volume, it is the quality of understanding. The better you understand what you accumulate, the higher the threshold. The resonance with June was not an anomaly, it was the first threshold. How many thresholds? Asked Juho. I don't know, said the Guardian. It depends on you. He looked at Juho with an expression Juho didn't immediately recognize. Then he did. Interest. Alive. Genuine. Return carriers are rare. But return carriers with this kind of structure, I saw one very long ago. Who? The one who created the Heaven System. Silence. He was also a return carrier, said Juho slowly. Yes. The Guardian looked at the boundary of the space again. He regressed many times. Each iteration, more knowledge, more control, until he understood the fabric well enough to create the system. And now he uses other return carriers, or eliminates them. The Guardian turned to Juho. You are the second return carrier I have seen in all my existence here. The first came long ago, not with good intentions. The creator of the system was here. He spoke with this Guardian, learned something or tested something, and then built this entire mechanism. 0 protocol. Host. 17 minutes until expansion. I need to go, said Juho. I know. The archive will try to destroy you, the Awakened too. What should I do about that? The Guardian looked at him for a long time. That I don't know, he finally said. That is your question, not mine. If they destroy you, the node drops out. Yes. The fabric tears. Yes. And whoever created the system gets what they want. Yes. Juho stood. 39 days left. 39 days, archive, rifts, angels, 6 other guardians at 6 other points. The creator of the system somewhere outside, Ray with his incomplete structure, Jun with her resonance, Sanho with the chowder, Choa with photographs on her phone. 52 days that became 48 that have now become 39. One person, one skill. A network of channels that accumulates not energy, understanding, and a question he has no answer to. How to stop someone who has regressed hundreds of times and knows the fabric better than anyone living. One more question, said Juho. Yes. The one who created the system. Does he know about me? A long silence. Yes, said the Guardian. Since when? Since the first iteration. Since the first iteration, so everything that happened then? He watched it. Perhaps directed it. Perhaps Juho's death in the first iteration was not an accident, but a point after which the regression launched with exactly this accumulation. I thought I was starting over. I was starting according to his plan. Or not, or I've shifted far enough. 0 protocol. Host, 11 minutes. Juho took a step back, toward the exit. The Guardian didn't move. Will you come back? He asked. Juho stopped. Come back to a prison, to an entity held by force, who is tired at a level with no human equivalent. I don't know, said Juho. Honest, said the Guardian. But if I find a way, yes. The Guardian sat down again, turned toward the boundary of the space. Then go, he said. The chowder will get cold. Juho walked back. 200 meters of diffuse gray light, shards of unknown glass, decayed fabric, a toy. 0 protocol. Host, I need to tell you something. Go ahead. 0 protocol. I knew about the thresholds earlier, not everything, but enough to tell you in the first week. I didn't tell you. A pause. Why? 0 protocol. Because return carriers with this kind of structure are dangerous when they learn about it too early. Information about the nature of a skill changes behavior. I wanted you to develop without distortion from knowledge. That was manipulation. I understand that now. Juho walked, said nothing. You're an excluded module, he finally said. You don't have resources for lying about important things. You told me that yourself. 0 protocol. That's true. I didn't lie. I withheld. Those are different things, but not much better. Not much better, Juho thought. The 0 protocol, an excluded module, cut out of some structure, connected with him not by accident, knew about the thresholds, withheld. Why? Out of caution, out of calculation, out of what it calls protection, but which is also control, like the archive, like Ray. Like possibly the creator of the system at the very beginning also thought he knew better. You will tell me everything you know, said Juho, without calculations about what it's better for me to know. 0 protocol. Yes, that's a condition. 0 protocol. Accepted. The hole in the air appeared ahead, and from this side it looked different. Not black. Gray, like dawn. Juho stepped into it. Outside it was cold. He came out and saw them immediately. All 3 were standing where he had left them. Choa looking at her phone. Ray, at the rift. Jun, at the rift too, but she had felt him before she saw him. By the energy, by the trace, and turned a second before he appeared. No one said anything, not because there was nothing to say, but because there was too much. Juho stopped. He looked at the rift behind him. It was beginning to expand, and slowly at the edges, gray cracks in the air. Then he looked at them. Ray, who withholds controlled information. Choa, who came from Busan to protect her brother and won't leave until she does. Jun, who her whole life thought her skill was a defect. Sanho, who cooks too much chowder and says, 2 lonely people eating together. That's something too. And the creator of the system, somewhere, who has known about him since the first iteration. And 39 days. Juho took out the notebook. 8 points. He added a 9th. Creator of the system. Return carrier. Knows me. What do I know about him? He closed it. Are you all right? Asked Jun. Yes. The Guardian? Alive. Ray looked at him for a long time, then said quietly, You learned something. Something you didn't expect. Yes. What? Juho looked at the expanding rift. Then at Ray. The one who created the heaven system, said Juho, was a return carrier, like me. He regressed many times. He has known me since the first iteration. Silence. Ray's expression didn't change, but something in him went still. You knew, said Juho. A long pause. I suspected, said Ray. Didn't know. The difference. There is one for me. Ray looked at him. For you, I understand there isn't. Choa listened in silence, face level. She knew how to hear bad news without reacting, the sister of a man who survived where he shouldn't have. Jun looked at Juho. What now? She asked. Juho put away the notebook. 39 days. 1 guardian, alive, in prison, holding a node. 6 others, unknown. Creator of the system, unknown location. Archive, unknown who is at the top. Accumulation limit, the nature is understood, the volume is not. Resonance with Jun, the first threshold, the next ones, unknown. What now? Now we go have breakfast, said Juho. A pause. Jun frowned. Seriously? Sanho is waiting with Chowder, and I need you all to meet him. He looked at each of them in turn. Because what comes next, I won't get through alone, and you need to know each other. Silence. Ray looked at him with the expression Juho had already learned to read. Surprised that a person doesn't show because they've long forgotten how to be surprised. But it's there. Choa was the first to move toward the exit from the empty lot. Sanho will be happy, she said, not turning around. He always cooks too much. They walked through empty Morning Soul, 4 people. Dawn, Gray, then Pink, then Ordinary. The city woke slowly, reluctantly, as always. Zero Protocol host. What? Zero Protocol. I want to tell you what I know about the creator of the system, everything, without calculations about what's better. Go ahead. Zero Protocol. He regressed 47 times. In each iteration, he came closer to his goal. In the 47th, he created the system. That means he is 47 iterations ahead of you, in knowledge, in experience, in understanding of the fabric. A pause. And Zero Protocol. And he doesn't have what you have. What? Zero Protocol. People walking beside him, he always regressed alone. It was his choice, or his mistake. I don't know which word is more precise. Juho walked. Ahead, Choa slightly to the side. Jun behind Ray. Somewhere a few blocks away, Sanho with a thermos. 47 iterations of solitude against 2 iterations and 4 people. It's either enough or it isn't. Good, said Juho. Zero Protocol. Host. One last thing. Go ahead. Zero Protocol. He knows you came back. He has already begun, and what he has begun, you will feel before you see it. Before you see it. Juho looked at the dawn over the rooftops. Gray, then pink. 39 days.